Hello everyone, this is a bit of an unscripted video. I was hoping to get a basis video out today, but alas I couldn't finish it in time. So, episode 7 of the latest Doctor Who season is released, Wishworlds. Now I will be getting into spoilers. I'm mainly going to be referring to the ending, which has a massive spoiler, so if you don't want to be spoiled, click off now. I'm giving you that warning, click off now if you don't want to be spoiled. Please go and watch Wishworld before you watch this video. Or in general, or if you don't care about spoilers, then continue watching, I guess. It's a pretty major spoiler though, so I would say go and watch it. And if you're going to continue watching, watch at your own risk. Being spoiled. So, Omega is returning to the series. And I just couldn't quite get excited about it. Which is strange for me, because I get quite excited by all these character returns. I was quite excited with the Toymaker, I was excited with the Rani, I got quite excited with the Midnight Entity. But I just haven't really enjoyed the most, with the exception of the Midnight Entity. I've not enjoyed the character returns in this era. Now I personally have really enjoyed this era. There have been many great episodes in season 1, there were great episodes, great episodes in season 2, with probably the exception of Robot Revolution. The entire season was great. I still need to gather my thoughts on Wishworld. I do think it's probably going to be around Robot Revolution level, maybe a bit higher at the moment, but I have a feeling it's not going to be as high up on my ranking. But I just do not enjoy these character returns at the moment. And I think my main issue stems from Russell is using characters and then not sticking to who the characters are or what the essence of the character is. Like with the Toymaker, he was always a very calm and collected villain. He never raised his voice, he had very strict rules that made it essentially impossible to win against him, and you kind of had to outsmart him and find loopholes and stuff to actually beat him and escape. I still think The Nightmare Fair is the best interpretation of the Toymaker. If you've not read that novel, go and go through it. It's great, but this is the thing with the Giggle. It brings in the Toymaker and then doesn't utilise Toymaker correctly, if that makes sense. And then they can't do the repeat of that with Sutek. I personally did not know who Sutek was, so I found the reveal quite underwhelming with the name Sutek. It just kind of seemed like a silly name to me, so I found it quite underwhelming. But I did go back and watch Pyramids of Mars after the reveal, and I got an understanding of the character, and it was not the same. First off, Sutek is no siren, and at least in my mind, I know other people will probably feel different, but to me, in my mind, you can't become a god. You either are a god or can't. That's how it is in my mind, at least. And I know they explain Sutek rise up to his godhood, but again, personally, I don't personally follow that kind of line of philosophy. And the thing is with Sutek, it's explained in the Pyramids of Mars that Sutek kills because he's terrified. He kills because he's scared life will become more powerful than him. And this is not only implied, it is explicitly stated by the Doctor in Pyramids of Mars. Explicitly said. I'm pretty sure what I've just said there with him killing life because he's terrified that he will become more powerful than him is a paraphrasing, but similar to what the Doctor says. I can't remember what episode of Pyramids of Mars it is, but if you watch it, you'll eventually come across it. I think it may be either episode 1, 2 or 3, I think. I don't think it's in the 4th one. But anyway. And this is the thing. Empire of Death wouldn't have played out the way it was if Sutek was in character. Because if Sutek was in character, the Doctor, Ruby and Mel, they would have all died with everyone else and the show would have ended. And also, why would Sutek become leader of the Pantheon? I know it's Pantheon, I'm still going to call it Pantheon. Why would he become the leader of the Pantheon? Because, again, he's terrified that life will become more powerful than him. He's not just dabbling with people who have similar telekinetic and psychic powers. These are literal gods. Why is he the leader of them and not trying to get rid of them? And the same thing with the toy maker. Why is the toy maker not trying to play against all of these gods in the Pantheon? This is the thing. I don't want Russell to continue messing about with old characters at the moment. I'd much rather him go ahead with new characters. Especially because he's not really sticking to what the old characters are. And I was personally very excited for the Rani. She was at the bottom of my list because of all the rights issues and stuff. So I would have expected someone like Cassandra, or or like the pig people from Daleks in Manhattan, or what's another villain? The Brain Melter from Time Heist to Return before her. But still, I personally... Well, I enjoy the reveal a lot. She just did not act like the Rani throughout. Mrs. Flood did not act like the Rani at all. And another thing with Mrs. Flood is that I'm not sure here, but I'm betting Mrs. Flood being the Rani was a very late addition. Because if you look at her appearances from the Church on Ruby Road, at least all the way up to the Robot Revolution, she seems to have a sort of godlike tint to her. She seems to have a lot of sight. She seems to be a bit psychic. And but then after the Robot Revolution, she just kind of fades out of being godlike. And with this new Rani as well, she doesn't really have much in the essence of the Rani. And I'm going to use essence here when referring to the Rani and to Omega, because of course the Time Lords, who they are and their personality will change, of course. With regeneration and bi-generation, they will change. So I think it's fairer to say essence as for a Time Lord. I think that's more important than who they are. I personally am I'm personally fine with this wackier portrayal of the Rani. I think it's fun. I still really want a very calm villain though. We kind of got that with Sutek, but again, Russell keeps missing it with the calm villains. You got the Rani, you got the Toy Maker, and he keeps making them wacky characters, which is not like how they are at all. But the thing is, the Rani's always been a biochemist. She's always been focused on science, so why is she all of a sudden now working on wishes which can work with, which is kind of can defy the laws of physics, can defy science. So why would the Rani take interest in that? Unless she can kind of form her own science from it, which she doesn't seem to be doing. She seems to be causing destruction and chaos, which again was never really part of the Rani's character. That's not really part of her essence. Because at her heart, the Rani is a biochemist where the only thing that matters to her is her science and her experiments. To the point where she will unwillingly work with someone if they have something she wants or needs, because for her science and experiments, where she'll willingly put herself in front of people that she doesn't want to get in front of, if they have something or they are something that she needs or wants for her experiments. So why is the Rani all of a sudden being a world dominator kind of thing? I know she's working behind the scenes, and it's Garth Conrad who's acting as the leader, but still it's just a bit with the Rani at the moment. And it's, if you're not going to utilise the characters how they should be utilised, let's say how they should be utilised, if you're not going to utilise the character if you're not going to utilise the character and have them be what they are, just erase what you've written and make them a new character. There is no point in bringing back an old character if you're not going to use that character like how they should be, like if you're not going to use that character how the character should be used, if that makes sense. I would be much happier if the Varney was one of the other Time Lords we heard in Space Babies, like the Conquistador or something like that. I'm pretty sure he's been mentioned in Doctor Who before. I could be wrong on that, but yeah, I just would have rathered her to be a new Time Lord if they were going to go down the Time Lords route. I think that just works. I think that would just work a lot better. Or just bring the Master back. You have the Master in the tooth. Bring the Master back. If you're going to write the Varney like that, just make her the Master. There's not much point in making her the Varney if you're not going to do anything with science with her. The closest we got was mathematical. I can't say it. Mathematical. You know what I'm trying to say. Mathematical equations. There we go. Sorry, I just had to pause the audio recording because my dog was barking, so I may have forgotten what was on. I know I was on the mathematics with Arani, so I'm pretty so I think I was talking about how she wasn't very sciencey now, but yeah, aside from the mathematics, she wasn't having a lot going on with science and stuff, which again, if you're not going to utilise the Varney's science and biochemist essence, then do not use her. Just bring back the Master if you're going to bring her in for world domination. There's another Time Lord character there already who can do world domination, and that's called the Master. You never know, the Master may still appear in next week's episodes, but given how jam-packed we are with villains at the moment, with Comrades, Mrs. Floods, the Varney, Omega, I doubt there'll be any room for him. or her. So, yeah, I'm a bit mixed with this one, because on the one hand, I like her, I like this personality for her, and Archie Punjabi's doing a good job with her. But she doesn't have the essence of the Varney. She's not following the essence of the Varney, and that's the thing with Time Lords. When they regenerate, their personality, their face, many different mannerisms and elements of them can change, but their essence does not change. And that's the important thing about Time Lords. Their essence does not change between regenerations, and if it does, it's done gradually over time. Like Missy, she was out for world domination to begin with, and then she became good. If the Varney turns out to be a good guy, and she and the Doctor teamed up to defeat Omega at the end of this episode, because we wouldn't have seen that, and that would have felt like I think that would have been even worse than having her be, than changing her to be this world dominator, if that makes sense. But you know, it's the Doctor. He is a humble hero. The Master out for world domination. The Monk is out to meddle with time and mess things up purely for his own amusement. The Rani, she's interested in science and she's a biochemist, so she's interested in species and stuff. And she's interested in science and experiments, no matter how unethical they are. So, you know, these are all different things that doesn't change between the regenerations. But it's the essence that holds the whole character together, and you change that, or change it without showing us the change, and you lose a lot of that character. And that's what's been going on with the Rani here, and I'm worried the same will happen with Omega. Now, I think Omega, out of all the Time Lords we've seen, at least on the show, and strictly speaking Time Lords villains here, probably out of all the ones we've seen, is probably it's probably the one that is very loose on his essence. I think he's kind of in the same situation as Morbius, so it's been a while since I watched The Brain of Morbius, so I could be wrong on that. But you know, his main goal is to return to the world of matter and stop being antimatter, and then wants to get revenge on all Time Lords for quote unquote abandoning him in that black hole. But we never but that's not really an essence, and it's a goal for Omega. And I don't think we actually know what Omega's essence is, because we've only ever had 2 TV stories of him, and the rest are in the expanded universe, which I haven't gone through. I've only really gone through some of the toy makers stuff in the expanded universe, to be honest. So I can't really speak for anything else in the expanded universe. But again, with Omega, it's if he's returning. First off, how? Because again, he seemed to be pretty dead at the end of Arc of Infinity. 2 or B, I can't remember whether I said 1 or A. If Omega is returning, what am I? How is he returning? That's my first question, wasn't it? No, how was he alive? Secondly, how is he returning? Because he's antimatter, and it's been established in both of Omega's stories that antimatter and matter cannot exist together, otherwise it will cause a big explosion and boom. So yes, how is Omega returning in this case? Even when he was matter for a brief time in Arc of Infinity, it was slowly becoming antimatter again. So it's how is Omega returning here? Is it going to be a case of like Lux, where he extracts the bi-generation energy or regeneration energy? I don't know what it's going to be called, because it's bi-generated. Once he regenerates again, I'll see it will be referred to as regeneration energy. But I don't think they've referred to it as regeneration energy or bi-generation energy yet. I think they've only just referred to it as the leftovers of bi-generation. Anyway, that's not important at the moment. Is he going to kind of like rewrite his kind of etymology or atoms or whatever you want to call them through the Doctor's regeneration to turn himself back into matter, like how Lux was built himself a body from the Doctor's regeneration energy? And this is the thing with Omega as well. I think it's difficult to kind of mess him up, but the thing is, his goals take the place of his essence, if that makes sense. And I think that's maybe a bit of a fault of the character as well, because again, we don't really know what Omega's essence or goals are after he defeats the Time Lords, I'm pretty sure. I'd have to rewatch the 3 Doctors. I'm pretty sure he says he has got a plan in the 3 Doctors after defeating the Time Lords. But from if he did, then it slipped my mind and I don't remember it. I probably will have to go back and watch the 3 Doctors, won't I? But yeah, it's, if Omega's coming back, he's gonna logistically he will want revenge on the Doctor and the Rani, because to him they're just Time Lords. It doesn't matter which Time Lords they are Time Lords. And given how little Time Lords there are left, there are still probably quite a few Time Lords still out there, I will say that. Just because really, as far as we know, the Master only massacred the Time Lords on Gallifrey. And if that is the case, then a bunch of Time Lords such as Rassilon, the Monk, the Rani, the Master, the Doctor are either still alive or probably still alive. But yes, this is the thing with Omega. He'll want revenge on the Doctor and Rani. He's not really going to care much for if the Rani is helping him or not. He will eventually turn on her and get his revenge. And this is the thing. I think we still need to see more of Omega before we can make the final conclusion. But I'm just really worried that they'll mess up his character like they have done with the Toy Maker, especially the Toy Maker. I ended up writing a whole video script that I've not been able to finish the video with yet. I've got the script finished, I just haven't recorded it yet. Going into the many retcons of the Toy Maker from the giggle. Because there is a lot of retcons that the Giggle, not just the episode, but the novelisation of the Giggle made to the Toy Maker. So if you'd be interested in that video, I can I can get to work on it. But yeah, it's, I personally just do not really. I think I'm feeling a bit fed up with Russell returning characters at the moment. It's, for me, why would you bring back a character if you're going to then change the character? It doesn't make much sense to me why you bring a character back and then reshape them and change them so significantly to fit your needs or the story, and then leave the character like that. It logistically does not make any sense to me. If you're going to do that, make a new character. You know, why make a new character? Why use an old character if you're not going to write them like that character? That's just how it is in my mind. It's like, thing is, if you, I have a strong feeling if he was to bring back the monk, then I have a feeling he would just can't write him like the master. And the thing is, the monk is a mischievous character. You know, he enjoys meddling with time, and I think there's a ton of potential for the monk. Probably way more than the Varney, especially in the context of Doctor Who, where time and temporal things are quite prominent. And with the monk, I also think there's just, again, a ton of potential with it for him. Sorry, I keep pausing the recording. Stuff. Again, with the monk, he has a ton of potential. And what I really do think is... Okay, hopefully I can say it now. The thing is with the monk, I think there's a lot of more potential with him than the Varney, at least when it comes to the verse of Doctor Who. I think it's not only going to be an easier character to write for, I think you can just do a ton of things with this character. I'm not saying you can't do anything with the Varney, but a lot of what has to be done with the Varney kind of stays within science and experiments, and it's very difficult to separate her from that. So I think her story potential is a bit more limited than the monk, who can kind of fit into any situation. You know, you could throw him into modern day Earth. You could throw him in 15,000 years in the future. You could throw him in 2,000 years in the past. You know, he works in any kind of situation, so long as he's trying to meddle with time and cause mischief. And I think there's a ton of potential for the monk to have stuff happen like with the 11 from the expanded universe. I personally haven't gone through the audio dramas. I'm not a big fan of audio dramas. I find them hard to visualise. But from what I have heard and seen of the 11, I am aware there's this mental disorder thing with his past incarnations still being conscious or somewhat alive while he's in his current incarnation. And I think that could be something that you could do with the monk, but rather than have it be the mental disorder, it's caused by him meddling with time, and he's meddled with it so much, it's kind of messed time up so much with his meddling that it revives his old incarnations in his mind, because it's got time all so out of sync and out of disorder. Because one of the things I really would like to see them try and do with the monk is to do a story with the monk, and then the Doctor can't defeat him, because to do so will be to change a significant point of history. And that's the thing I think I'd be interested to see with the monk, that historical events were actually caused by the monk. And I think that would be a great thing for a story, to show that the Doctor can't always beat something one like the monk. Because if he does, the sort of events of history are already being felt and in the future, and if the Doctor's to do anything about that, he changes the course of history. He changes so much of what was become, and I think that could be a really interesting thing where he has to let the monk complete his he has to let the monk complete what he's doing, or things go bust. And you know, that sounds like a terrific story in my mind. And then I think if we were to actually get a monk return, he would just end up being that guy like the master, which I think would be a big pity, because the monk is such a great character, and I personally really do like Peter Butterworth. I'm a fan of the Carry On films, so he often appears in those, and he's quite comical as well. And so I think having the monk return would have been probably a better choice, but also I don't want to see more returning characters at the moment, at least not under Russell. If Russell's going to return characters, I think it should be characters that he created, or as some part in the creation of, like the Trickster. Okay, maybe I don't know if he had any part of the connection in making the Trickster, but I know he has gotten some writing experience with the Trickster. I'm not sure with the Trickster though, because his writer's not exactly the nicest person. So maybe if it involves having to pay him, maybe just do another character who has the same effect. But again, it's also he struggles with, as much as I hate to say it, complex and in-depth villains, I think. With the Daleks, with the Cybermen, with the Sontarans, he does them fairly well, but again, their concept is simple. The Daleks, they see every species as below them and try to get rid of them. The Cybermen, they're trying to convert everyone. The Sontarans, they're out to cause war. Again, they are very simple characters, and again, the Master is a fairly simple character if you break him down to his essence. He's just out for world domination, which isn't really a new thing in Doctor Who, so it's very easy to fight for him. I'm personally not the biggest fan of the drum roll, and I think that is an instance of Russell adding in his kind of touch that doesn't really need to be there. And with, of course, and then you have in this new era, it's becoming a lot more prominent that he struggles to manage doing returning characters that are a bit more complicated, because you've got the Barney, who's on paper a fairly simple character. She does a lot of science and experiments, but to be able to write that character, I think he needs some kind of knowledge of something in science or experiments, which of course not everyone's either going to remember or know. So that makes it a bit more complicated, and of course trying to write all the technical terms, which Savani is known to use the technical terms, and use stuff like 5 to the power of 10 or something like that. Yeah, it's just a bit So with the line, she's just a bit complicated like that. Again, on paper she seems simple, but she gets a lot more complicated when you think about it. And again, with the toy maker, he has a bunch of rules. He has a bunch of rules, like if you win, you don't win, you become his toy. No, you don't become his toy, his world gets destroyed. If you're lost, then you become his toy. He could forfeit if you were cheating, but he could cheat himself. He would win automatically if you refused to play. And then all of that was just erased in the giggle. You know, you just changed a lot of really strict rules that made this character so, in my opinion, intimidating to go up against, in favour of giving him really loose rules that are just kind of fairly simple if you understand what I mean. It's getting a prize for winning. As the Doctor showed, you could do a significant amount of power with that, and the thing is with the toy maker, when you beat him, you're meant to lose your power, you're not meant to gain power. You're meant to literally die when you beat the toy maker. And that's what I mean by lose power. You're not meant to exist once you beat him, unless you're his servant, which in that case you can continue going on forever. You're not meant to survive beating a toy maker in a game. And again, it keeps coming back to this, and again, this is a bit ranty because this is all unscripted, but it's why change a character if you're going to make why change a character? Why bring back a character if you're going to change everything about them? At that point, just make a new character. You know, it's why do we need a new character if you're not going to make them the same character? And I think as the writer, because I'm personally writing a book, and I think you need to know your limits as a writer, and if you can't find a way to write the character, then make them a new character. You can keep what you've done, just make them a new character. And another thing with knowing your limits is, if you know you can't write this plot for the character, but you think you can figure out another way to write the character and keep them that character, don't change them, keep them that character, then try and figure out a way to do so. And if you find out that you just can't write this character, then give it to someone else to have a go, or make them a new character, where you can shape their image to how you want. I think, and this is the thing as well, it's do not bring back old characters if you're not going to use characters like how they should be used. If you're not going to write them like the character, don't make them the character. This has gone on for... I've not been meaning to rant on for 30 minutes. But I will end this on a bit more of a positive note. I have personally really enjoyed Siva. I know I came across quite negative in this video, but it's just because the villain returns in this Siva have been my least favourite part. Have been some of my least favourite parts of it. But I personally really enjoyed the Eva. I think there's been a lot of good episodes. There have been some not so great episodes, like Empire of Death and Legends of Ruby Sunday. I think we can just slide that into the bad category and forget about it. Space Babies, it was alright, but again, not terrific. And the plot twist of the bogeyman being made of bogies, that was quite predictable. But most of the other episodes were pretty good. And again, in this season alone, every episode except Robot Revolution and maybe Wishworld has been, if we were going on a tier list, S tiers, really. I think the story and the engine was one where I maybe be putting that in A or B, but I personally I've still enjoyed all of these episodes in Siva. With the exception of the giggle, I only really enjoy that for so many watches. Now I don't enjoy it anymore, but I used to enjoy it. If we're including the 60th specials, that is. But I personally have enjoyed most of this Siva. There's been many great episodes. There have been quite a few good villains. I've really enjoyed Lux Imperator. I've really liked Maestro. I'm trying to think of the other ones. The bird shapeshifters from Rogue. I can't remember what the species was. It's just escaped my mind. I know it begins with a C. But there's been a lot of good in this Siva, I think, and I think that I personally do not listen to the rumours of the show's dying. Honestly, Russell has said that if the Disney backs out, they'll make it on the BBC budget. That's all Disney really has control over, the amount of budget. They get a say in a few scenes if they want a scene added, I think. But as far as I know, that's about as far as their control goes. They don't have much control over the show. And if Disney backs out, they're gonna make it on a BBC budget. We know that, so the show's not going anywhere, despite what many people will have you believe. But yeah, I've personally enjoyed this Eva. I think it's been a very good Eva. And I am looking forward to the future of the show. You know, as much as I've criticised Russell in this video, I've enjoyed a lot of the episodes in this Eva. I have enjoyed his episodes. I don't think, but unfortunately, he has had quite a lot of good episodes in this era. Wild Blue Yonder, terrific. A Star Beast, I quite enjoyed the Star Beast. I know not a lot of people said it was the best of the 60th specials, but I'd rank it above the Giggle. I rank both the 60th specials above the Giggle. Now that's personally because of my views of the toy maker in the Giggle. But, you know, I personally, I've enjoyed this era. Overall, I've enjoyed this era. Just in this video, it doesn't seem like it, but I have enjoyed the era. And it's one that I would like to see it continue. I would. I would like to see more shooting. Because really, we've had what's amounted to one series of it. And it's been on the 6th show for 2 series now. The thing is, he's pretty much has a similar amount, maybe a little bit more, or a little bit less than Christopher Eccleston. Which, you know, okay, yeah, that's a bit more actually. But he's had he's only had about, it's going to have about a few more episodes than Christopher Eccleston, really. He's not got a lot of episodes. It's about like a season and a quarter, really. If we're going by like the early revival, then yeah, it's only has about a season and a quarter of a worth of episodes. And I think that's a shame. And I think it just goes to show that we need, at the minimum, 10 episodes a season. Flux worked with 6 episodes because it was telling a overarching story that was more connected than probably any season arc story we've had in the revival. Because each episode really did go into each and every other episode back in Flux. So the 6 episodes worked there because you were telling that overall story. But it doesn't work here because you're telling the individual stories with an arc that's loosely tied up to each episode. And it's not heavily tied up. So, of course, I think we need the more episode counts. 10 ideally at the minimum. 13 I think is the most ideal number though, but I'll be happy with 12 or 14 because I'm a little bit in the superstition of 13 being unlucky. I'm gonna say that, and you never know, it may play Doctor Who a little bit because not a lot of people like Jodie Whittaker's era, and she's the 13th Doctor, unfortunately. I say unfortunately, she's great in the Bible. She's actually my first Doctor, but William Hartnell's my favourite still, but I still really enjoyed Jodie, but I know not a lot of people did. But yeah, I'm gonna have to end the recording here because I'll keep rambling on and on and on, and it's just the thing. I was intending to do a video for my anniversary, but not anniversary, my YouTube channel anniversary. And because I think I probably will still go ahead with it, but I think a lot of the things I was going to say in that video, because it will be unscripted, I start rambling on in that video like I have here. So yeah, I'm going to end it here before I ramble on any further. But just keep in mind that while I've been critical in this video, I have really enjoyed the series. I have really liked it. I think the best episodes have ironically not been done by Russell. And a lot of the episodes in this era overall have been great. So, yeah. Thank you all for watching, and goodbye.